Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series Challenger Day 1. We're bringing you guys through the American-Canadian matches of the day. We have one match already complete. We just saw Stardust win 3-2 over Huck in pretty close best of 5.
That's right. I mean, it could have really gone either way. 3-2 is so close, and those two players really showcased some really, really immense skill. It's just a shame that they met so early, I would say, over here in Challenger, because I feel like those two are for sure premier quality. I mean, Huck's been there for a very long time. I'm positive that Huck should have been in Premier League. It's just he got matched up with a really, really tough opponent. What can you do?
Yeah, that's one of the guys that really nobody wants to end up being put against. The next match that we have for you guys is Kane versus PiLiPiLi. Kane, who finished top 8 in Poitiers, France for the Season 1 finals of WCS. Pretty good, actually. The best of the Canadian results that we've seen so far. And Kane going up against PiLiPiLi, who qualified by defeating in the final qualifier one of the other Canadian hopefuls, Scarlett. Right. PiLiPiLi was very, very excited. I know he was ranting and raving on Twitter and everything, just being like, oh my God, I finally made it to WCS. You know, this is my chance to really show people, you know, what I'm made of. And I know PiLiPiLi's a really good guy. He's been playing and streaming a lot in the last few months. He's got several accounts in the High Grandmaster of North American Ladder.
I just want to brag a little bit that I 3-0'd PiLiPiLi on Ladder the other day.
Wow.
It was 2v2.
I was about to say, I was like,
we rushed him.
I was like, that's a dirty call out. You know, that's like.
I played him every single time I've lost in 1v1. So
I was gonna say, I've had a call out before where someone's like, man, I wrecked Nathanius in ladder. I'm only like gold league. And I'm like, what is this guy talking about? It's like post a replay. I drone rushed him in 2v2, and he like barely held. Like, oh, this is the accomplishments. That
I think
we
like double 10 pulled or like Zergling roached him every single time. So we're like, just kill him.
That's 2v2.
He's WCS quality. Come on, we got to do it, bro.
That's 2v2 for you. Of course, if you guys have been enjoying the game so far, if you're rooting for our young up-and-coming player or the very handsome Kane, you can let us know with the hashtag WCS. Tweet at us at StarCraft. Let us know how you're enjoying. I know for you Europeans, it's getting pretty late, and by that I mean it's very, very late. We're breaking past midnight at least.
If you're a true gamer, it's like your afternoon.
That's true. That's true.
Let's be real.
Watching StarCraft keeps me up all night. For us,
Nate, if we were watching this cast, we would be getting up in the morning and be like, oh, let's have some cereal.
It wouldn't be unusual for me to be up at midnight watching StarCraft. Yeah. In fact, it happens whenever there's Pro League or GSL on. That's usually later.
6 a.m. to 12.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Because that's like where the least amount of StarCraft
is for us. That's how I am.
But we're loaded into the first game of our second best of 5, Zerg versus Protoss, Kane versus PiLiPiLi. Let's get into the action. We're starting things off on Vani Research Station in the north position, representing my insanity. He is Kane.
And in the south side, as the blue Protoss representing Red Bloods, it is PiLiPiLi. Important to note, last time these two met up, Kane did defeat PiLiPiLi 4-1, but Kane has also shown some inconsistencies, I would say losing to the very aggressive Arium as of late. So it's not completely like PiLiPiLi is out of this based on, the past. But I would say Kane is the favorite going into this. PiLiPiLi represents a lot of aggression, a lot of that, that young, youthful aggression that I was talking about last game.
Yeah, I can't fault Kane for that, though. I think Arium's a really, really talented American player. And to be fair, I think Arium would be participating in Challenger if it weren't for the fact that he's too young to actually play. It's like, well, he doesn't hit the age limit yet. If only that's like a real first. It's like, well, I only have another 6 months to get really good before I turn 16, right? But PiLiPiLi, I like that Red Blood's been grabbing some young talent. PiLiPiLi, of course, in the NA, but I believe they also have Lilikanen and Hanfi from Europe that have been representing them. They repping in. I know they played in like a big 2v2 tournament a month or so ago.
Man, that was awesome. Whoever organized that was the greatest person in the world.
It's just cool to see these teams with the younger players that we haven't heard of as much being able to come together and practice with each other, because these guys are the future. PiLiPiLi was so excited to be able to qualify, even if he had to do it by taking out one of the fan favorites. And for this map, Vonnie Research Station, you've got that tucked in natural. PiLiPiLi playing actually very greedy opening, Nexus into Gateway, but he knows that based on the way this map is set up, he doesn't really have to worry about anything.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not risky on this map.
A lot of times, I mean, because of that, you could say like, oh, 6 pools happen a little bit more often. But Kane, I think when you are the person that has the advantage or seen to have the advantage over your opponent, you're not going to do those cheesy builds. That's more to just like build order coin flips. You're going to try to draw out the game as much as possible. Why? Because the longer you draw it out, the more decisions both of you have to make. And if that's the case, well, you can get advantages because your opponents are more likely or more inclined to make more mistakes.
Yeah. Kane gets his Overlord in here. He doesn't see anything too crazy. And at this point in the game, there's not really that much to see. So he has the choice now, knowing that it's such a fast Nexus based on the Cybernetics core timing. Okay, he can afford to be greedy. He has taken a gas, but I believe it's just 1. So maybe he just goes for a late speed, just in case it's some sort of crazy 2-base push. But otherwise, I think he's free to build drones for a while.
You know, we were actually talking about PVZ before this cast, and I was asking you like how you feel about this swarm host change and how it's really affected with PVZ. I know you've caught up with a lot of like Korean matches. How do you feel like PVZ has kind of evolved? Because in my head, obviously I'm thinking Protoss has the advantage now since they have, I would say, not the threat of swarm hosts just killing all the gateway units.
Yeah, I think the losing the threat of swarm hosts is the most important thing for the Protoss players, because even the Korean scene, there weren't really a lot of players that like banked on swarm hosts. It was mostly seen in, especially the European scene, and to some extent, some North American players did it. I will say, Kane, I know, is someone who was a cash host, as he would have called him in Snoot. They've called this style abuser, as it were. But now that they've been changed, I don't think that Kane's the kind of guy that wouldn't have put a lot of thought into this. So PiLiPiLi is someone that streams a lot. He's very easy to study because of that. He also ladders on his main account on the North American ladder. So you can even just look at his match history and be like, oh, what are you doing on ladder today? And things like that. So Kane can go into this match well prepared. As far as styles go, I'm honestly not sure. I think Kane can do just about anything. And this Ling speed opening transitions very well into Hydra's play later on, or with this Roach Horn, he could just play straight up Roach Hydra. Like, he has a lot of options at this point. It's too early to call.
It is important to note how much he's respecting PiLiPiLi. I mean, that 630 Roach Horn just says, I'm being incredibly comprehensive against any of the attacks that you could put on me. I love the Speedling opening in the early stages. Actually, you don't normally go this many circlings in the early stages.
Yeah, it's quite a few Lings, because as we can see, Kane isn't even ahead on workers. PiLiPiLi's really been chronoing out those probes quite heavily, and it looks like he's even looking to take a third base very soon. But the biggest benefits of the Link speed, of course, are for defensive capabilities, but also getting pylons or probes that are out on the map, making it so that the Protoss can't even try to attack you.
And apparently denying third bases. This is going to be a really nice way to deny this third bases from going up, and you're going to see a lot of times Protoss get into this problem of just spiking up in too many minerals. He will kill... Whoa. He almost didn't kill the Zealot.
Yeah, might as well just tap that Zealot. Yep. And the thing is, these sentries, he might actually be able to grab them too. They don't have any energy. He needs to get these bad boys out of here.
That's right. I mean, it's so scary.
Yeah, I think he actually might just... Oh, he's going to back into a corner. The newly warped in sentries will buy some time, but he can actually start to run towards the ramp if he really wants to and get those sentries.
Still, I would say mission accomplished. I mean, not only did you kill a lot of force field energy, which actually gives you the ability a lot of times as Protoss to put pressure on when you're just reaching that third base, but you've also canceled the third.
He's making more Lings too. Kane realizes the position that he's in, and I have to say, Andre, you made a really good call how well he could deny the third. Now Roach is coming up. Normally, if you're able to keep that Nexus alive, it's finishing now, and you can get the Photon Overcharge at least to fight against the Roaches, or a Photon Cannon to help lock it down. But he has neither of those things, and I don't know how he's supposed to kill the Roaches. Like, sentries alone are not going to cut it.
No.
How many gateways does he have?
Let me count real quick.
Yeah, I think it looks like just 3, so not a lot of warping potential either.
Nope. Okay. He's going to surround a lot of the sentries here. A lot of force fields don't... finally they do. They go down. But it does give the ability for those Roaches to just wreak havoc.
The cannon gets immediately knocked down, and the Nexus is nowhere near close enough to finishing for a Photon Overcharge. He surrounds the sentries once again, and PiLiPiLi losing all of his expensive units now. No sentries remaining. This third base still under an incredible amount of pressure, and I do believe, even if it were to finish at this point, a Nexus cannon would not save him. He's just going to get to work on this bad boy, and he should be able to cancel this. I don't know where PiLiPiLi goes from here. He's stuck.
Yeah, he's pretty much dead at this point. It's really, really tough for a Protoss to get back in this spot. I mean, he threw down 4 gateways right now. 4 gateways, if you were going to, I mean, he banked up to 900 minerals. And that's not because he's, bad at macro. It's because he kept having to cancel the Nexus, cancel the pylons, cancel everything over there at the 3rd base. And now he's like, well, crap, I have to throw down as much stuff as possible.
And we can see
supply capped.
He's just throwing down a ton of gateways.
Yeah.
He's going up to 9 now off 2 bases. So it's basically an all-in and a half at this point after being denied that base for so long.
Yep, and he has 1 shot. Really, he has to go in, kill his opponent, and that's it. But the problem is
he
Kane
starts the 3rd Nexus again, but yeah, Kane's not going to let that happen.
No way. What Kane is going to do here is he's getting Glial Reconstitution +1 melee attack. He's going to try to hold it off, and then his win condition will be that Spire Tech. He's going to switch into Mutas normally directly after the battle is cleaned up, and that'll be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, without a Stargate, without a Twilight for Blink, there's no way he's going to be able to deal with Mutalisks and some more force fields being burned as soon as he tries to leave his base, trying to deny these Zerglings. And a big weapon of Stalkers on the high ground, but road speed is about to finish, and all the sentries are dead. So if he moves out onto the map, he can just theoretically be surrounded.
Just surrounded, yeah.
Yeah, Kane has that worker advantage now, too. He's saturated his 3 bases, so all he needs to do at this point in the game is just build roaches and lings. That's it. And I love this +1 melee attack because it really, really just cements down that he's not going to lose this game because those Stalkers are just going to die so quickly to those bonus upgrades.
Wow, look at this. Kane feels so comfortable. He's actually teching up the Mutas right now in the middle of all this. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's winning every single battle, basically. He's denying, I mean, this is probably the closest that we've seen so far. And even this, he's cleaned up a lot of the Stalkers. He's been able to expend a lot of the force field energy. I mean, everything is going Kane's way, and it's because he was able to identify the Protoss build very, very quickly.
Yeah, really, really nice play from Kane. PiLiPiLi fighting his heart out right now, but as these upgraded forces continue to push in, it's not, he can't hold on to anything long enough to make anything of it. He can't build any advantages out of this position, and those Mutalisks should be rallied straight towards like the natural mineral line.
There
and
it
then
goes.
he's like, oh, there's something I can do. GG. Kane takes game number 1 here in our 2nd match for the World Championship Series Challenger.
Really nicely played. One little thing that I loved what Kane did, he got a delayed lair. He noticed that his opponent was getting a really fast 3rd, said, hey, I don't need to get a lair so fast. Let's put on a lot of pressure. Meanwhile, he was teching up. He got like 3 gases all at the same time and was prepping the mid-game transition if it failed.
Yeah, it was a very well orchestrated setup. You mentioned, I mean, I like the Zergling speed, and then you mentioned the 630 Roach Warren, which is just the I'm not going to die to anything Roach Warren, and following that up with the, okay, you've just been playing this game like excessively greedy. You don't have any tech. Your sentry count is very low, and you're just trying to get this crazy fast Nexus. And most Protoss players off the back of like that much greed will just ramp up to like an insane number of gateways and like mass Blink Stalker type attacks, which is very popular in the current meta for PvZ. But Kane just said, no, I'm just going to outposition you, and he forced a lot of force fields to be burned, and then by the time the next wave of Lings was there weren't enough force fields to actually stop him from losing everything.
Yeah, I mean, it was just well orchestrated all together, and it really comes down to just identifying exactly what your opponent is doing and then countering it accordingly. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, though. You need to know how to counter it. The Zergling timing that we were talking about, you said it best. It was more defensive than aggressive. He wasn't planning on denying 3rd bases, really. I mean, it's there to do that as well, but normally it's let's clean up all the pylons that can happen because I know PiLiPiLi, he likes to be aggressive. He likes to do those 2-base pushes. He, especially we've seen in his PVTs, I mean, he's ultra aggressive in his PVTs.
Yeah.
It carries over to a lot of his other matchups.
Yeah, it's carried PiLiPiLi a far way as we start to get ready for game number 2. And, you know, just to go off, just a couple of the players that he's knocked out in the qualifiers to get here. Of course, we mentioned Scarlet he beat in the qualifying match, but he also defeated Bales, in my opinion, one of the top 3 Protosses in the North American scene right now. He went through players like BioIce, a very high-level American Zerg player. Like, he didn't have an easy run to get here, but Kane just showed in that first game, like, he is, like, Kane didn't sit around, like, you know, just doing nothing, I guess, for the last week, you know, which is really funny because before he played WCS Season 1 finals, he actually did laze around for a week. He was on vacation and flew straight to France to play his match, and now we can see what happens when he's actually been able to practice before one of his scheduled matches. So I think this is a really tough series already, just from the pace of that first game for PiLiPiLi.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, PiLiPiLi has a lot to go if he wants to be able to find any cracks in Kane's armor.
Yeah, as you guys can see, we're now loaded in to Coda for map number 2 in the top left position. The red Zerg player from Team Mind Sanity. He's up 1-0. He's Kane.
And in the bottom right-hand position, the blue Protoss, the ultra aggro Protoss. It is Red Blood's very own PiLiPiLi.
Now, if you guys don't know too much about Kane, as you should be learning, especially if you watch online StarCraft. I know he's been doing acting for commercials and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, him and his. He actually wore his super fuzzy slippers out onto the main stage when he did his first interview.
I saw that.
In WCS Season 1 finals. Kane's a really cool guy. I had the pleasure of spending some time living with him actually at the Root House back when he was on that team in 2013. And he's actually just a really funny guy. Like, super down to earth. He's someone who practices very hard. He has a very good mindset about the game. He doesn't look at any opponent and think to himself like, oh no, I can't win. In fact, to qualify for Season 1, where he got to top 8 and then make it here without having to qualify again, he actually defeated in his qualifying match Polt, who ended up winning Season 1. Like,
just that guy?
Yeah, he just smacked down Polt, and Polt was like, well, I'm going to win this season, but I had to do it off of, not the first qualifier.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. I mean, Kane is, not only that, his style isn't just like that super aggressive, like coin flippy type of style.
No.
He changes it up. He goes macro for the most part. We always see Kane with like 7 queens out at like the 8-minute mark.
That's actually a really good point, because that's one of the things that makes Kane such a hard player to kill. He used that to shut down a lot of aggressive plays, especially from Terran players that go for things like early Hellbat pushes. In this game, PiLiPiLi trying to use this probe to deny a hatchery from being placed, as Kane did open up pool first, but there goes the hatch starting at the same time as the Nexus, so PiLiPiLi can't be too upset about that.
No. I think PiLiPiLi is kind of happy. I'm surprised that he didn't go and check if there was a gas or not. A lot of times when you're doing these gateway openings, you need to check if there's gas, because if there is, you need to throw down that forge really, really quickly. But he just said, I'll defend with, just my zealots. Everything's going to be fine. Could have run into a build order problem, but I think he knows Kane's style. He's like, okay.
Opening with the gateway gives him a little bit of leeway. By starting gateway Nexus, like, he doesn't have the wall up as fast because he didn't build it at the bottom. But if this was something like a 14 or a 13 pool, he wouldn't be as dead as just going straight Nexus first like he did last game.
Yeah, it's true. But for now, I mean, Kane is just macroing up. He's playing safe. He's playing defensive. Everything seems very normal. Getting a third base super quick. And it's regular Protoss versus Zerg openings, I would say, overall on this map. Now, let's talk about the map.
Yeah.
I feel like Colossus, exceptionally good on this map.
And you've got quite a few ramps to work with. There's ramps going in and out of the third base. There's several ramps in the center of the map. And of course, that's a really good point to always get force fielded. You can section pieces of armies off at these chokes. And, towards the later stages of the game, you have those rocks that you can work with to either open up the pathways on the northeast or southwest sides. And there's even the collapsible rocks you can use to cut off some of those paths, reduce the mobility, as it were.
And I feel like PiLiPiLi is asking himself, how do I get to those stages? How am I going to get Colossus out? What's the build order in which I need to get, my third base out safely? I need to get my Colossus out and just have those max 200 armies, because I think that's where this map will really feature really powerful attacks around the 14 to 18 minute mark, where Zerg don't really have their hive tech roaring. They're still defending with like Roach, Hydra, Viper, and Protoss can make and take advantage of the really, really nice concaves and chokes that exist on this map.
Yeah, some of the later game stuff that we could end up seeing, as it's a Phoenix Forge opening from PiLiPiLi, I think Broodlords have really come back into this matchup. A lot of players have been going for Broodlords. This map has a lot of these not necessarily dead airspaces, but these blockers that we have to like walk very far around on ground. And so Broodlords can either hit from the other side or on top of these, especially in the center of the map. Like, there's just so many different places where you could be pushing on a fourth base in the center position from a place that can't really be blinked under, for example. So a lot of Zerg players like the Roach Hydra into Broodlords these days, but Kane with this Ling speed, like he's shown he doesn't want to be too passive. He doesn't want to let PiLiPiLi get away with being greedy, you know, as opposed to just trying to be aggressive or anything like that.
Do you think the Broodlords are from relegation of not being able to go Swarm Host, or do you think it's something because it's just inherent powerful?
I think it's a combo, though. It's like that and the Tempest nerf, too, because most people, when they thought about the Tempest, they're like, oh, PvP, it doesn't work anymore. And I think actually recently in Pro League, I think I saw Stats versus Zest, it might have been, and it was like the Tempest actually still Shrek the Colossus. But for PvZ, it is much more difficult to actually kill those Broodlords, especially when you have Queens parked under transfusing them.
Oh, that's very true. I didn't even think about the transfuse over, you know, Colossus and stuff like that. Definitely going to be one of the most important things as we go to the later stages. Obviously, we are going to the later stages as the layer is popping up right now. We have the double evolution chambers down for Kane. I like the positioning too. I think it's really, really clever. Excuse me, the single evolution chamber. Roach Warren popping up as well. The real question is, are we going to see the natural Zergling Hydra? Are we going to have Roach pressure?
I'm very, very interested to know, because he went for the melee upgrades off the evolution chamber in the last game. And if he gets the melee upgrade again, like I can still see the Roaches being useful for a short phase, but it generally speaks more to my heart that we would see Hydralisks, like more of these players like these styles. And I know Kane is someone who talks a lot with Scarlet, who also really likes the Ling Hydra combinations in ZvP.
Yeah, and a lot of times you open up Hydras against these Phoenixes, man. These Phoenixes are scary if they're able to be masked in a high number. And if you don't have anything to deal with it, you know, say goodbye to a lot of times your Queens, a lot of times your Overlords, and even like Roaches, Zerglings, Hydras all over the place. You need some sort of thing to deal with it. I love this, though. A Sentry Mass over on the mid-left-hand side. He's hiding them from Kane. Kane realizes this, not because he knows what's coming, but he knows what can happen, which is the third base. He can't have a third base right now because he's been checking them constantly. It's already 9 minutes and 50 seconds into the game. He knows there's some sort of two-base pressure. Yeah. He doesn't know what it is, but he knows to mass Roaches.
Honestly, I think if Kane was going for Hydralisks, he would have been in a really bad position because these Phoenix could have tried to pick them up. Like, this is actually a bit of a Roddy build type push here, where he just plays with a lot of Phoenix to lift up the low numbers of Hydras and use his ground forces to kill everything else. But the Roaches, much more difficult to kill with just Phoenix. It takes a lot more time, and it could still work if his force fields are good enough, but it's going to be very tricky since there's creep spread out here and no detection.
Yeah, a little bit tough for I would say Kane actually to engage against this, as we were talking about.
Stepping a bit far forward, I think these Roaches getting force fielded off. This is I mean, this is actually starting to go a little bit in the direction that PiLiPiLi wants it to, but he's running out of force fields, and I think a couple of the sentries died.
Yeah, and the constant production, the injected units, 28 Zerglings on the way. That's definitely going to help against this mainly Stalker army. PiLiPiLi needs to be so careful because he's venturing out to a spot that's so far away from his warp and pylons.
Yeah, if he gets cut off, if he gets sectioned off here, really hurt, and Kane immediately goes for it. He's thinking the same thing as you agreed to. He's like, yeah, let me just cut off that production. I know you've mostly got a bunch of Stalkers, and it's all about snowballing from this point for PiLiPiLi. Kane, he doesn't have a lot of force fields to worry about. He just needs to get the perfect engagement. And here he comes. He's going to bring his drones, too, trying to do everything possible to shut this down. The Zerglings were never able to get on the other side of these Stalkers. He was never able to get a full surround, though.
But he just needs to buy time. 15 Roaches are on the way right now, so if he gets those out, it might be able to stabilize him really nicely. There's not that big of a Stalker count. And hey, I think Kane might be able to hold off with this next defense.
Oh, the drones pulled once again. The rest of the Roaches coming in. Some Roaches as well from the third base. And most of the Stalkers have actually been picked off. These Roaches can kite against Zealots all day, every day, Greetarp. Still no third Nexus on the way for PiLiPiLi. His attack continuing to move forward. The Queen coming out now to push away this Mothership Core. And he's managed to push PiLiPiLi back to the pylon.
Wow, that's incredible. Incredible defense coming out from Kane, knowing the exact number of drones, or around the exact number of drones to pull just to buy time for this incoming wave of Roaches. I mean, it's just a really, really immaculate defense, as PiLiPiLi had some very good engagements to start things out. Now the question is, what does PiLiPiLi do from here? He goes double Robo. He's trying to hard counter those Roaches.
Yeah, he knows what's coming, and it's going to be a Ling Roach Hydra attack. Like, Kane is just going to basically say, you aren't getting a third base today. And PiLiPiLi's like, well, I'm taking my fourth gas as well. And I'm pretty much just desperately relying on Colossus. Like, I guess he could maybe thinking Immortals, but I don't think he can afford it.
I don't think so either, man.
Like, you just gotta drop a Robo and just pray.
Double Immortals, and then on top of that, you need to get Sentries out. It's really tough. He realizes it cancels one of the Robos, says, I can't afford this. And he's just gonna produce off of one Robo from here on out. But Kane has a very, like, he could literally do anything and he's going to be fine, as long as he doesn't just go AFK.
As long as he doesn't just like leave the game,
Yeah.
he could do anything.
Yeah.
Just win.
I mean, he needs to. He doesn't need to do anything, but he can go to mutas.
Oh,
he can
finding
go to,
these pylons is really nice. I think he might even supply block
wow.
him.
Yeah, you're right.
No, he's gonna get supply blocked. Ouch. The
Yep.
Lynx poke the front. He's like, well, you don't have a third base, right? Okay, so how about I just... I mean, let's think this through, though, for Kane. Like, what does he need to do to not lose? What could actually kill him? Maybe he gets an extra Overseer, a Spine in each base in case there's a War Prism or DTs. But outside of that, there's not a whole lot that I can think of.
Force field somehow. I mean, they can
Yep.
never be taken off
Yeah,
the
as
table.
as long as he has some forces on the map to see him move out, I think that should help.
I think what Kane needs to do is just tech up to either Spire or Hive.
He contaminated the Robo Facility.
Oh, man.
Noise.
Who does that? Kane does that.
Kane does that.
Kane does that.
Because Kane is a WCS top 8 finisher.
That's right, man. He's in top 4.
He doesn't want to lose.
It's true, man. Like, he's doing everything right. Right? He's doing everything right. He's gotten the Spire tech. You could either choose Spire or Viper. I think both of them are fine. Just to have that, like, as soon as the trade happens, you're going to be able to switch into something really, really nice. Or, you know, obviously just compile on your advantage with the Viper. But this works completely well. He's on 3 base. He knows what he needs to do. He's just going to put pressure on his opponent, knowing that there's just not enough material for the Protoss to be able to deal with all this.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, he's just sectioned him off. Like, he could throw it on the force fields, but either way, trading against this army is never going to work out in his favor. And the Hydralisk actually got on top of this Mothership core. No Photon Overcharge gets cast, so that's pretty much it. He has to come down this ramp to fight against the army now. He can no longer just try to overcharge the Nexus and buy time. He's stuck.
That's right, man. I mean, Kane played this beautifully. That's what it really comes down to. He knows exactly what his opponent is capable of, defends against it accordingly, and now just asserting himself the gigantic economic advantage that he's had throughout this mid-game stage. Finally, PiLiPiLi is going to go down onto the map, but look at this. I mean, he doesn't really have that much. He knows it's over. GG gets called, and Kane will take game number 2 very decisively.
Kane up 2-0 now in his Challenger Best of 5 against the new up-and-coming PiLiPiLi. And I don't think that this is a super surprising result so far. Kane has really shown over the last year or two, you know, he's been quite good. He played not terribly successful. He never got the big results that, you know, like Roddy and I hyped this guy up quite a bit, and he didn't quite get much. Like, I know he did well a couple years back, you know, like one, I think, StarCraft America. That was a long time ago, and now being able to come up in WCS with his performance last season especially, you know, the series he's taken off players like Bunny. Kane's showing up. PiLiPiLi, he's got a very, very difficult challenge to win the next 3 games in a row.
I think so,
here.
man. I think so. I mean, look at the type of games that we've had. He's very, like, binary. It's either he's really, really aggressively greedy with his economy or really aggressive with his units and trying to put on pressure. He needs to find a good middle ground, and I think that's what Kane is exceptionally good at. He's able to see exactly, you know, just straddle that line of being able to go to all-out economy if his opponent is going all-out economy, or being able to defend against a very, very heavy pressure regardless of good micro. And PiLiPiLi does showcase good micro. He just isn't able to have enough material, isn't able to get the right perfect build against his opponent.
Yeah, I think, you know, PiLiPiLi, we all talk about things like nerves coming into play as well.
That's another
He's got
thing,
a lot of people watching him. This is a very difficult opponent to have to go up against to start things off. PiLiPiLi, you know, I do like what you brought up, though. His builds have either been, you know, very decisively greedy or very decisively aggressive with that big push last game, and I think that shows that little bit of, like, he knows he needs to really, really commit to something. Like, he can't play middle of the road if he wants to beat Kane.
It's that young aggression that I always talk about. You know, I feel like the new and up-and-coming young players, they showcase really, really strong aggression. Their micro is normally good. I mean, look at when Drunken Boy came onto the scene. He's the same thing. He was very aggressive, knew how to micro super well, and choosing the builds, though, like actual strategy of things, that's where the more experienced players really were able to take off. I think Kane is in that middle road where he was a new and up-and-coming player for the StarCraft 2 scene in its whole life, but in terms of experience, he still has that. You know, he's still been in the scene long enough to know when to use that aggression, as we saw in Game 1, and also to know when to be defensive in game number 2.
Yeah, I couldn't say it any better myself. Kane really showing his experience here in the Challenger Day 1 for the World Championship Series. We are now loaded into game number 3. Can he close things out and move straight on back into Premier? Let's find out. In the top position, he is the red Zerg player from My Insanity. He's Kane.
And in the bottom left-hand corner, the Red Bloods Phenom. I'm using that word way too much. But he is the aggressive powerhouse. It is PiLiPiLi.
I think going for the P words is pretty good, PiLiPiLi. You know, the powerhouse PiLiPiLi.
Powerhouse Protoss.
Powerhouse Protoss that is PiLiPiLi. You go for the alliteration. It always sticks.
It always sticks, man. I gotta do that. I gotta do that more often. See, Nate, you teach me so much every time I come here.
It's okay.
So much.
It's okay. Little do the viewers realize we basically just like prophesized over building armor and high-sec auto tracking for like a solid half hour before today's broadcast.
We did.
Well, we'll get to talk about that.
It took a good like 5 minutes to get into that, but we got into it.
We'll get to talk about that a lot tomorrow. I'm surprised Iron Fortress comes out so early. I don't particularly play this map too much myself outside of the beta, but I think this is a very tricky map for third bases.
If you're Protoss, I don't know why you would ever choose this map or Infernal Pools.
Yeah.
I think both. Well, I guess it's choosing between one or the other. Because Infernal
You get
Pools,
one. Well, it's a best of 5, so you only have one veto.
yeah, you only have one veto. So I think he said Infernal Pools, get out of here. I personally like Infernal Pools better for well, it's not good for Protoss, but I would choose it over this map because taking a third base is so difficult as Protoss here. Like, I don't know how you ever would do it. The distance between the natural and the third base is so long. The third base also has 3 different entrances in which you can come and be aggressive if you want to be. It makes Zerg able to surround this base so much easier. And when you're limited to 2 bases, let me tell you, if I know you're going 2 bases as Zerg, it's really easy to defend all the different all-ins. I just need to play very comprehensive.
Yeah. So this map is just very interesting in that way. There's so many different ways when we talk about things like that third. Like either third base that you can take, be it north of the main for PiLiPiLi or east of his natural. Like there's obviously at the corner of the map, there's that little area where you can just run lings by. So a wall at the ramp that's in front of the base won't work. And first of all, you still have to cover that. So that's open. There's this backspace that's open. I think Mutas can hit from the other side very easily. As Terran, I think it's a very scary map if you're like playing against someone who puts tanks on the other side. Or it's one of the things that make Iron Fortress, in my opinion, probably a very popular veto this season for a lot of players once we get to the best of 3 stage of things. Now
the question then becomes, what does Protoss do to kind of make 2 base effective? How can I approach the Zerg in a good way where I can just get immeasurable damage? And I think it's not a great way, but the best way to do it is probably something like a Robo All-In.
Yeah.
And you go super, super quick and basically say like, oh, if I do a Robo All-In with just like Gateway first, Robo All-In, do I really care about how the map is laid out? I have mostly Zealots. I have maybe 2 Sentries for Guardian Shield. I don't really care. It's the Immortals that are doing damage. My Zealots are kind of tanking everything, and I just micro with my Warp Prism. I think we need to do things on this map that are regardless of the map, of the terrain.
It's still very tricky because it's cross-spawn, though.
Yeah.
Like, on this map, I'm pretty sure you can still get any spawns, which makes things very, very tricky, period. But he's going to proxy a Stargate. Well, I guess he's taken that into account. He's like, I got to do something. It's like, I gotta do something.
Stargate, though, it lacks the power that you really need, and also, unfortunately, if you want to do like a Void Ray All-In, it's on the wrong side. You want to be on the top left rather than the bottom right, based on the 3rd position of Kane.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You want it to be the same
point.
side as the
That's
3rd.
a really good point.
So it is a little bit difficult. We'll find out. Maybe it's just, he's trying to surprise with some oracles, and if he can get in and there's no Spore Crawler down, he can do a lot of damage. He can kill a good 8-9 probes, 8-9 drones.
Yeah, as Mothership Core pushes the Zergling away from that massive Zerg insignia in the center of the map. You never noticed that, Greetorp, when you play on this map?
It's
the home of Zergs.
Well, it makes sense, man.
I don't know why. I think that some of the positioning on this really favors like Widow Mines or tanks, but the Mothership Core is going to push this 3rd base. So he at least sees that it's done. There's like a queen there. The Stalker gets the Overlord that's scouting. He won't see the Stargate, but he's not a fool. He throws up 3 spore crawlers because he knows that there's something on the map, and it's either if you're gonna hide it, it's either Stargate or DTs, both of which are handled pretty well by spore crawlers.
That's right. I mean, when you don't know what your opponent is going, a lot of times you have to defend against the range. And right now, you don't know exactly what your opponent is going, but Stargate is, one of the common openers in PVZs, or in ZvP rather. No, PVZ. I was right. So, yeah. I mean, this is going to be thwarted pretty easily.
He's building a Void Ray from it now.
He has to. He has to do D-base pressure, man.
Oh, he's taking a Nexus in the bottom right, too. He's just going crazy.
Wow. Okay. I mean,
PiLiPiLi's like, a third base is so hard to take, I'd rather do this. But Kane's like...
No way.
I think Kane's looking for the Stargate. He's looking for the Stargate.
Oh, okay.
And he doesn't check that base, though.
I was like, Kane,
that's a big mistake.
You map hacker, you. It's not really map hacker, it's Star Sense. I know.
I mean, if you... I was going to say...
Yeah. I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. He's looking for
We're both thinking it.
He's looking for the Stargate. He can't find it.
That's how you know we're Terran brothers right there. We think the same thing. Oh, now I'm like, what the heck?
Okay, now Kane should be like, why is my Zergling not pathing up here? Is the game broken? Is that ramp broken? Can I not path up that ramp? It's like, no, I don't think the map is broken. I think there's something blocking that wall.
And he will look to take a third base. I like this. It makes it look like you're doing a regular build.
So we veered back towards Insane Greed then?
Yeah. Insane greed. And
now he's like, hey, what's going on? You didn't spawn here. What are you doing?
And now he knows shenaniganery is up.
That wall, though, man, he's got a cannon there, and there's no space for a Zergling to go up, so he needs quite a bit to actually knock down any roach, and that cannon is with any roaches. And worst comes to worst, he can actually add more. A Spire on the way now for Kane.
This guy is beautiful.
He's building the Void Rays in that base too. So even if he tried to make a big roach push there, I think the Void Rays could work too.
I think so. The mothership core is in the bottom right-hand corner. I believe he recalled to the bottom right. Let me see that probe saturation, if possible, in the bottom right.
Yeah, he brought probes over. That's so dirty because he wanted to use the main and natural nexus to they're closer together.
It's gorgeous, man. Like
that's actually very smart of PiLiPiLi.
The small thing that these pro players do, it's just really, really beautiful.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought to notice that Greetorp. That's very smart. This is actually starting to look really good for PiLiPiLi if Kane can't punish this, because they're both on 3 bases now, and the worker count is not that far away. The big sticker is going to be, can he do something with this Spire that's finishing up? He's getting the melee upgrade, so like Lings are strong, but PiLiPiLi's playing so defensively, he has nothing out on the map to be caught by the Lings.
So that's the big thing. PiLiPiLi needs to commit all of his resources right now to defense. So what is that? That's sentries. That's, getting up your cannons and your gateways and, even Void Rays. And all these things are not good against tech switches into Spire tech. That's why the Spire tech is just going to be so, so powerful. And especially with Mutas controlling space, Mutas controlling the air, obviously, it's going to be able to do massive, massive damage and force PiLiPiLi's hand. He needs to go out, push out on the map, and do something, else he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
Now the Mutalisks are out, though, and this is very tricky because that Stargate is so exposed. And the Mutalisks, they don't actually need to kill this base. He just needs to force PiLiPiLi to recall those Void Rays over to that base, because then the natural is totally open for a big, big Ling push, or even the Mutas just flying over. So now these probes are forced to run. He's going to try to just... Well, actually, he blocked himself in, so these probes can't run.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's stuck.
Well, Warp-In will help out, and of course additional Mutas will be flying over. As soon as a Photon Overcharge comes over here, it'll be a lot better to clean this up. But still, like, how do you deal with... Oh, no, the Void Ray!
Don't attack your own units. Okay, now the rest of the Void Rays are here, so he's starting to make something of this. There's the Photon Overcharge.
Okay. And now maybe a push is the best decision for PiLiPiLi.
Yeah, Lings immediately start streaming across the map. Kane going for that big counterplay. He knows that the Mothership Core is in the bottom right. It's not possible for him to Photon Overcharges. Oh my god, the wall's open! No!
Okay. He might... No, he's not going to go.
Okay,
he's not going to
turn around.
Okay.
Maybe he's going to go for the flank. He's just going to try to surround this army.
I think so.
That could also work. He's got +1 melee now. Those Lings do a lot of damage. He's coming in. There we go. The first force fields trying to block this off. He's buying himself actually quite some space, but some of these Lings are still able to get on top of the army, and that allows the Mutalisks to not take the full brunt of the aggression here.
Yeah.
So the Void Rays start to die. Picks off a few more Stalkers. Where did he recall? The natural? Well, guess what? Your third base is exposed again.
Not a good position, but there is a respectable amount of stuff there.
He broke it open, though, so the Lings can actually come in on top of this, too. I feel like the Lings are really what seals the deal on this base, because the Stalkers just can't compete. He put 2 cannons by the Stargate, which is a bit weird. Actually helps quite a bit. I wasn't expecting that. but I still think there's too much to defend this
It's
base.
just being zerged, man. Completely overrun. Zealots are going to be warped in, but there's just not enough to deal with this anti-air. Void Rays finally will trek across the map from the natural of his main base, but when it comes
and how
down
does he
to
deal
it,
with mutas when he's about to lose his
Exactly.
Stargate too? Like he can't really function off of this. He loses one Void Ray. Second Void Ray's going to drop now. Just a couple of Stalkers remaining to try to defend against this. He dances the roaches on that third base. He brings drones over. GG's called. Kane takes the 3-0, knocks PiLiPiLi out. PiLiPiLi walks away with 50 WCS points and $2,000. Not bad for your first time in WCS.
Now, I want to really mention Kane's scout in the bottom right-hand corner. It's something that's so tiny. Did he scout the top left-hand corner? No, he didn't. He's looking for that proxy Stargate because he was like, wow, this is a really fast Oracle. It's coming into my base very, very quickly. It must be a proxy Stargate. Those little tiny things that the pro gamers pick up on is so negligible to the untrained eye, but like these guys see it immediately like, oh, that's a really fast Oracle. I need to go check that bottom right-hand position because I wasn't expecting it to be
I mean, I believe he also had the Overlord that got picked off by the Stalker in the southwest position.
Yeah.
But I think he got a pretty good look at Kane's base. So he's just telling us, he's like, I didn't see a Stargate. It's
Exactly.
Like, you didn't have a Phoenix there. And also the Oracle came to like where his third base was from the southeast too. So it's like, why would you be coming from that position if you spawn in bottom left? Like, did you check the bottom right side for a hidden hatchery?
Because ordinarily, like if you're putting a Stargate in your natural, let's say, it's just going to go shoot across the into the bait. You're not going to do this like huge wraparound.
And then his Ling at the tower or something could have seen it potentially.
That's right.
So
that's right. So the tiny things. He scouts to the Stargate, finds a Nexus instead, and he just reaps benefits.
Yeah, so after that 3-0, Kane moves on back to Premier League for Season 2 of WCS, and we have ourselves just one match remaining. Stardust and Kane have advanced. It's time to find out if Hydra or Zeal will. I think Zeal is in possibly the against the pretty much the best. Yeah, he's actually against, I think, he's against the best player that he could have been put up against.
He's in the danger zone, bro.
Yeah, because Polt can't play Challenger because he won the first season. Hydra is the second best, and this is going to be a very ugly, difficult match for Zeal.
If Huck thought he had a tough time, he should empathize with Zeal a lot more, I'll tell you that.
I'm interested just to see what Hydra does to this poor guy, guys. After this short break, we'll be back for the final match of Day 1 of WCS Challenger.